Okay, I would like to call this regular meeting of the Desert Water Agency to order on April 7th, 2026. This meeting is being held virtually and in person, and the link and telephone option are provided for the convenience to the public. In order to reduce feedback, please mute your audio when you are not speaking. And I would like to remind everyone in the boardroom to please turn off or mute any electronic devices. And then if you would like to speak virtually, please unmute your microphone when speaking and to also speak directly into the microphone. For discussion and questions, I will call on directors in the following roll call order: Director Bowman, Director Grasha, Vice President McKenna, and then myself, and all votes will be conducted via roll call. And now I'd like to ask Vice President McKenna to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, you don't want to do it. Director Bowman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now I will ask Ms. Baca to do roll call, please.
Director Bowman,
Present.
Director Grasha,
Present.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega's absence is noted, Vice President McKenna,
Present.
and President Bloomer.
Present. Now I would like to open it up for public comment. This is the time for members of the public to speak on items not listed on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the agency. And we ask that you keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. And as provided in the Brown Act, the board is prohibited from acting on items not listed on the agenda. And have you received any public comments via email?
No comments have been received.
Okay, I do not see anybody in the boardroom wishing to speak or anybody online, so I will move on to public comment for items listed on the agenda. And I'm going to ask that people hold their comments for items listed on the agenda until that item comes up later in the agenda. And we'll move on to item number 6, which is consent calendar items. And these items are presented to be voted on with one motion of the board. And at this time, I'd like to ask if any board members would like to pull any items on the consent calendar. Consent agenda. Seeing none, I will take a motion.
Move item 6 as presented.
I'll second.
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Grasha,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega's absence is noted, and Vice President McKenna
Aye.
and President Bloomer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item number 7, action items. 7A, request to add Senate Bill 827 fiscal and financial training to the external meetings list. General Manager signs.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. Senate Bill 827 was adopted in October of 2025, which created an additional 2-hour fiscal and financial training requirement that must be renewed biannually. The required topics are financial administration, short and long-term fiscal management, capital financing, debt management, general fiscal and financial planning, prudent investing, and ethics related to public resources. And this training must be, it's a little hot, must be completed by elected officials of a local agency, appointed officials, appointed officials by a governing body who makes decisions or recommendations regarding financial administration, budgeting, or the use of public resources as a part of their official duties, as well as local agency executives. And this generally includes the chief executive officer or equivalent, such as myself, assistant or deputy chief executive officer or equivalent, such as our assistant general manager, department heads, and other management level employees or employed by contract. The deadline to complete this training is 2 years if you began service before January 1st, 2026, so essentially before January 1st, 2028, or if service began on or after January 1st, 2026. The training needs to be completed within 6 months of employment or that appointment or election. SB 827 also creates a requirement that beginning July 1st, 2026, local agencies post on their website information on how the public may request these training records according to the Public Records Act. And I would like to highlight that the agency is currently in the midst of redeveloping our website and is scheduled to go live before the end of this fiscal year. And this has been included in that redesign. And so we'll be compliant with this at the time of that website launch. It also requires local agencies maintain records demonstrating both the date and the local agency official completed the training, as well as the entity that provided the training. At the last executive committee meeting on April 2nd, we reviewed this staff mandatory training, and the executive committee reviewed with staff the mandatory training for board directors and recommended this required training be added to the external meetings list in section 2 entitled mandatory training. Attached to the staff report, you'll see the external meetings list as proposed revised. And this is, again, to add it to the authorized trainings, even though, yes, it is mandatory. But by adding it to this list, it will add it to the compensable activities for the board of directors. So staff recommends that the board of directors add Senate Bill 827 fiscal and financial training to the external meetings listing for the board of directors. And I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions, Director Bowman?
Yes, will this be something that will be done in-house, the training?
The trainings at this point in time, we're not planning on providing the training in-house and developing our own, though there are several entities out there such as CSDA. BB&K has developed a training as well to meet this requirement. Similar to our other mandatory trainings, such as sexual harassment and ethics trainings, we do not create those trainings in-house, but rather utilize the resources of other entities that provide these trainings.
Thanks.
Director Grasha, any questions?
Well, it sounds like they might have been wrong. I heard them mention this at the CVWD meeting, that there would be 2 years to complete this or enact it or something to that
Yes,
effect.
that is correct.
Oh.
So after January, if you were elected, so in your instance, you were elected prior to January 1st, 2026. So you do have 2 years to complete this initial training, and then every 2 years thereafter. Only if you were placed in your position, whether it be by election or by appointment or hired here at the agency, on or after January 1st, 2026, does that 6-month timeline apply?
I have no further questions.
Vice President McKenna?
No.
Okay. And I don't have any questions or comments, so I'll entertain a motion to.
Move the recommended action.
Actually, President Bloomer, we need to take public comment, or at least ask if there's public comment.
Okay.
which
Any
we should have
public
done up
comment
to.
on this item? Okay, seeing none, now a motion, please.
Thank you.
Director Grasha made it first. I'll make a second.
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Grasha,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega's absence is noted. Vice President McKenna
Aye.
and President Bloomer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, item 7B, request authorization for general manager to execute purchase and sale agreement and quitclaim deed for a portion of easement. Mr. Mulhawk.
Good morning, President Bloomer, members of the board. I'm here this morning to request authorization for the general manager to execute the purchase and sale agreement and quitclaim deed for a portion of an easement. The agency has been approached by the developer of a proposed 60-unit condominium project located on North Palm Canyon Drive between Visachino and West Via Escuela Drive. The project is encumbered by an existing easement formerly associated with the Whitewater Mutual Water Company pipeline easement. The agency acquired the easement as part of its 2008 purchase of Whitewater Mutual Water Company and its assets. As shown on your attachment, the easement traverses a portion of the project site, generally within the southeast corner of the property. The agency has previously evaluated the relocation of former Whitewater Mutual infrastructure at various locations and has consistently maintained that such easements constitute agency assets with inherent value that shall not be abandoned or conveyed without appropriate compensation. In this case, the subject infrastructure is permanently out of service, and the agency has determined that there is no operational or future need to retain or relocate the easement. Accordingly, staff required the developer to provide fair compensation in exchange for the relinquishment of the agency's easement rights. The developer has submitted an offer of $8,535 for the quit claim of the applicable easement rights. Staff have reviewed and evaluated the offer and determined that it represents fair and reasonable compensation. Fiscal impact, developer to pay DWA $8,535 for the quit claim of easement rights and $700 administrative processing fee. Finance Director Slough has reviewed this report. The purchase and sale agreement and quit claim deed have been reviewed by legal counsel. This falls in line with our strategic plan in accordance with the strategic goal number 1, sustainability, particularly initiative 1.4.3, the pursuit of non-rate revenue. With that, staff recommends that the board authorize general manager to execute purchase and sale agreement, bill of sale, and quit claim deed for the easement. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Director Bowman, any questions?
None from me.
None for me.
None for me.
All right, none for me. And at this time, I'd like to ask if there's any public comment on this item, either online or in the boardroom.
Before we vote, just,
Yes.
we talked about this in closed session, so it's not, we understand it, just so the public knowledge that we know what we're doing here, I guess. So I move the recommended action.
I'll second. And any further discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega's absence is noted, Vice President McKenna,
Aye.
and President Bloomer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, item 7C, request board authorization for general manager to enter into a master services agreement with Itron Inc. for professional services associated with advanced metering infrastructure project. Ms. Rapola.
Thank you, President Bloomer, members of the board. Staff is requesting board authorization for our general manager to enter into a master sales agreement with Itron. The Desert Water Agency believes that water conservation investments are a critical strategy for us to meet our future water needs. And one of the best ways we can do that is working with members of our own community. With this in mind, the Desert Water Agency proposed the Advanced Metering Infrastructure Project. This project was meant to be constructed in 2 separate phases. So phase 1 included equipping over 8,700 of our manual read meters with radio transmitters, which would allow those meters to communicate with the fixed network when it was installed. That work was completed in September of 2023. Phase 2 of the project, which is currently in process, includes installation of the fixed network itself and full rollout of that AMI system. We did receive actually 3 grants, and I neglected to mention one, so I'm going to make sure I do include that here. In 2020, under Resolution 1242, Desert Water Agency submitted an application to the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation's Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program for $500,000 in funding to go toward phase 1 of this project. We were awarded that funding. And again, that project was completed, or that phase was completed in September of 23. In 2022, under Resolution 1286, the agency submitted a second application to USBR for the same grant program, requesting another $500,000 in funding to go toward phase 2 of this project. We were also successful in that grant, received that funding, and phase 2 is in progress. The third grant that is not listed here is $375,000 in funding through the Department of Water Resources Urban Community Drought Relief Grant Fund. So we also have that money. So in total for phase two, we have received $875,000 in grant funding. As part of phase two of this project, Desert Water did contract with Canyon Springs Enterprises to construct 13 antenna towers at various agency sites throughout our service area that did not currently have existing infrastructure. So it could be a building or a tower that could house those antennas. That work was completed in 2025. Not part of the grant-funded project, but being developed concurrently with that project is a customer portal. So the agency is in negotiations with Vertex One to develop that portal. When the rollout of the system is complete, this portal will allow our customers to view their real-time usage, which has been shown to save an additional 5% of water. The next step in phase two of this project is setup of that network system and AMI system with Itron, and installation of all collectors and repeaters by agency staff. By authorizing our general manager to enter into the agreement with Itron today, we'll really get the ball rolling on that final phase of this project. You can see here listed several prior actions for this project, so we have been before you several times. We already discussed those two resolutions for our grant applications. The board authorized in January of 23 staff to call for bids for construction of those standalone towers. The board authorized in November of 24 for staff to file a CEQA notice of exemption for the project. In March of 25, the board authorized awarding of the contract for installation of those towers. And in October of 25, the board accepted the tower project. Fiscal impact for this project, so this is the remaining fiscal impact that we anticipate, is $433,540. This includes professional services by Itron, the initial setup fees, internal labor costs to install those collectors and repeaters, and then annual subscription fees and annual maintenance costs. So we have included the first year's worth of maintenance fee and subscription cost in that fiscal impact. The project itself is funded through fiscal year 23-24 budget. The initial budget was $1.2 million. To date, we've spent just over $726,000, which includes the materials purchased, so those collectors and repeaters, installation of antenna towers by our third-party contractor, internal labor costs because we have started installing some of those repeaters, and other miscellaneous costs. The remaining budget under the project is $472,549, and Finance Director Slough has reviewed this report. Legal counsel has reviewed this contract a couple times, so we went through a couple rounds of back and forth, which is always good. Strategic plan alignment. This project aligns with Goal 1 for sustainability. Initiatives, there are two. Initiative 1.2.1, which is to promote conservation and water use efficiency to meet state mandated conservation targets. And Initiative 1.2.2, which is to provide tools and resources to our customers to proactively monitor and manage their water use. Staff is recommending the Board of Directors authorize the General Manager to enter into the Master Sales Agreement with Itron for professional services associated with the Advanced Metering Project. Master Sales Agreement has been attached for your viewing, and at this point, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Director Bowman.
No questions, just comments. Thank you for the summary. This is a wonderful, almost conclusion to many steps along the way and the grants that you were able to get for the district. So well done.
Director Gracia.
The math that you went over here, does that include the meter installations? Are you seeing that in here?
Meters, you mean for phase one?
Well, you gave some numbers up to now. We spent a certain amount of money. It sounds like a good deal if that's the case. Like there must be something missing from that. Like,
It's a great deal.
well,
Phase one of the project was budgeted in fiscal year 22-23. I think that was about $446,000. So that was equipping the meters with ERT. So that is also a cost
okay,
that was previously expended for the project.
good. Thank you.
Vice President McKenna.
Just looking forward to this getting done. Thanks.
Me too.
And I'm just excited to see the finish line on the project. So it'll be good to get it done. And so with that, I'll look for a motion.
I move staff recommendation.
Perfect. And I'll second. So we have a first by Director Bowman and a second by myself. Now we'll do a roll call vote.
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega's absence is noted, Vice President McKenna,
Aye.
and President Bloomer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Item number 8 is the Secretary Treasurer's report, which I will present in Secretary Treasurer Ortega's absence. These are the financial highlights for February 2026. In the operating fund, we received $3,020,031 in water sales revenue receipts, $28,983 in recycled water sales revenue receipts, $117,080 in wastewater revenue receipts, $1,534,356 in meters, services, and et cetera, miscellaneous. $1,137,400 in construction deposits. That was about $1.1 million from Shea Homes and another $33,000 from MDM Properties LLC. We paid $4,511,667 in accounts payable. Our year-to-date water sales are 3% under budget, and year-to-date total revenues are 1% under budget, and year-to-date total expenses are 22% under budget. Our active potable water services, there were 23,835 active services billed in February of 26 compared to 23,845 billed in January of 26. So that was a net decrease of 10 active services. Our account disconnections for non-payment, there were 22 water accounts turned off for non-payment in February. Over the past 12 months, the average of 38 accounts per month have been turned off for non-payment. So that's about 2% annual disconnection rate. In the general fund, we received $605,103 in property taxes, $518,025 in replenishment assessments, and that was all from private pumpers. We paid $1,542,129 in state water project charges. So that brings us to a year-to-date amount of $17,706,578. In the wastewater fund, we received nothing, and we paid $117,596 in accounts payable. Our active sewer accounts, there were 2,290 billed in February of 26 compared to 2,296 billed in January of 26. So that's a net decrease of 6 active services. And those are the highlights. If anybody has any questions, Director Bowman,
None from me.
Director Gracia,
No questions.
Vice President McKenna.
Oh, I have a couple. I see a fairly big payment going out to Borden Excavation for a pipeline renewal. What, whereabouts is that? Which item is that?
Well, I do remember it being in my division. I don't know exactly the neighborhood, but it's up north of Vistachino.
So it's probably a work in progress payment for one of our construction pipeline projects. We can provide more detail if you'd like to have more detail.
Yeah, I'm
on
kind of
that.
wondering where we're working. I mean, I saw a big operation going on in North Palm Canyon, but I don't think it's this big.
Oh, yeah,
come?
if you'd like to come up, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not looking at the exact amount that's listed in here, I can just tell you that we processed final payment for the previous pipeline project because we have that time we have to wait after notice of completion
For retention.
to allow
All right.
any subcontractors to protest or anything of that nature before we can release final payment. Sorry.
The second one was on Shea Homes. There's about $1 million deposit came in. How many new customers? Where's that project, first of all? How many new customers are we going to have on that?
That is for the Broadway Cove. It's about a little over 100 new service connections.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's interesting. And then we did about Badger Meter was a big expense which has sort of surprised me. I know we buy them regularly, but there's 700,000 or so went out to Badger Meter. Was something big happen there?
No, it's our normal inventory purchase. So we keep a sizable amount of on hand that we budget for every single year, and we make just a couple big purchases a year, and we work through that inventory on hand.
Okay, that was it for me. Thanks.
And I do not have any questions, so we will move on to item number 9, General Manager's Report. General Manager signs.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. The first item that we have in our water importation and water management section within the General Manager's Report is for the State Water Project subsidence repair funding. As we have discussed before, subsidence across the San Joaquin Valley is significant and is caused generally by groundwater pumping, and it has created severe structural impacts to over 200 miles of the State Water Project water delivery facilities, and that leads to the reduction in the reliability and conveyance capacity of those facilities. According to DWR, subsidence threatens to reduce a State Water Project's delivery capability by up to 87% if it remains unaddressed. Although State Water Project contractors are not responsible for causing the subsidence, delayed repairs until accountability or cost recovery issues are resolved would further jeopardize the system reliability. As a result, the State Water contractors have made subsidence repair one of their top long-term priorities. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act that was signed into law on July 4th, 2025 included a $1 billion funding to the Bureau of Reclamation through 2034 to restore and expand existing water conveyance systems and increase surface water storage capacity across the West. On March 17th, 2026, the U.S. Department of Interior announced California projects will receive $540 million of that total funding, of which $50 million has been dedicated to addressing subsidence impacts along the San Luis Canal. The San Luis Canal is a joint use facility between the State Water Project and the Central Valley Project. So that is a State Water Project is managed and maintained by the state and state participants, whereas the Central Valley Project is managed and maintained by the Bureau of Reclamation. So that's what we consider the federal component. And so that joint use facility is between the State Water Project and the Central Valley Project. This funding from the Department of Interior would cover the federal share of the interim actions needed to address subsidence repairs in advance of long-term actions that will cost approximately $3 billion to address. This federal funding will complement the state funding efforts, including pending legislation such as SB 872 to reduce the overall burden of subsidence repair on ratepayers. Now I have a few sizable updates on the Sites Reservoir Project. At the Sites Project Authority Reservoir Committee and Authority Board meeting on Friday, March 20th, the participants received updates on the following items. First, we received an update on the project labor agreement during public comment. This came from Operating Engineers Local 3 Representative Mr. Toll, who provided an update on that PLA. The PLA is in its final form, and it was agreed upon amongst the parties and was being routed at that time to the participants for signature, for the labor participants for signature, along with Bernard Construction. Mr. Toll in his comments urged the sites authorities to opt the PLA as its standard for the remainder of the projects, as they believed it was a good and fair agreement. And by adopting the PLA project-wide, it would provide stability for the project and streamline the efforts going forward. Therefore, essentially, so we wouldn't have to go through this process every time that we hire a major contractor for a major phase of the project. This sentiment was echoed by the Building Trades Council Representative Mr. Miller during public comment as well. The Reservoir Committee and Authority Board also received an update on the water conveyance agreements. And also it was an action item. The sites board approved the execution of memorandums of understanding with Richvale Irrigation District, Western Canal Water District for the conveyance of Proposition 1 water. As a condition to receive Proposition 1 funding, there are certain public benefits that need to be provided, and these agreements would help to administer those benefits. A part of those benefits, the project is responsible for transporting water to the Upper Butte Basin, which is pictured to the right. Wheeling agreements are necessary to deliver this project water to the designated delivery points. The MOUs provide for the parties to negotiate, develop, and execute wheeling agreements prior to the end of construction. Also, there was an action item regarding the contingency land acquisition program. Previously, we presented to this board the land acquisition program that was in place for the sites project. In 2023, the sites board approved an early land acquisition program, which resulted in the acquisition of approximately 2,200 acres of land that were located in critical path locations, such as access roads and also the locations of the footprint of the dam and the main dam and the saddle dams. 2 more property purchases are in negotiations, are expected to be executed and acquired in 2026. These 2 acquisitions will mark the completion of the early land acquisition program. Looking forward to the future development of the project, there, of course, is more land that needs to be acquired. And these early land acquisitions have led to an increased desire by landowners to gain greater certainty on the purchase price and timing of their land. This feedback led to the development of a contingency land acquisition program where interested landowners will allow the Sites Project Authority to conduct an appraisal, enter into negotiations, and develop a final purchase agreement, which will be approved by the Sites Board. The contingency land acquisition program will be limited to just 10 properties due to staffing and resource limitations at this time. If there is more interest in the program than just 10 properties, then properties will be prioritized based on where they are located. Are they essential for the construction activities that are scheduled for 2028? And also where the construction activities necessary for those activities, as well as the footprint. Parcels offering environmental mitigation opportunities to support those construction activities. Now, it is a contingency land acquisition program, so the final close of escrow will depend on certain conditions being met. Those conditions will be contract execution with project participants and agreements with state and federal partners, Sites Board approval of a resolution to finance construction, as well as availability of funding to deposit into escrow. So when contract agreements are in place and funding is available, we have funding, and that funding has been made available, then we can close on these properties. The contingency land acquisition program has been discussed with the landowners, and there is interest. It is anticipated that these acquisitions would be finalized in 2027 at this point in time. We also received project contract document updates. The Sites Board continues to work through identified issues within the benefits and obligations contract, the bylaws, and the joint powers agreement, which together would form the project contract documents. As of March 2026, there are 5 remaining large issues to be resolved before finalizing the contract documents in advance of the investor commitment period. At a high level, those issues are governance, downstream capacity, the role of the acquirer, and partner facilities, and delivery point modifications. For governance, there is a desire to secure and protect the governance structure that is currently in place. That means the Reservoir Committee and the Authority Board, to maintain that structure and the voting thresholds through the life of the project. Also, with downstream capacity, there is a desire to modify how the facility capacity is treated to provide greater certainty to downstream participants. So if we are investing in a certain level, we would like to have some sort of assurance that we will continue to receive that level of service and capacity. With the role of the acquirer, there have been proposed changes regarding the role of the acquirer as far as the project goes, and that acquirer is DWR. And for Desert Water Agency, this is an important component of it. With DWR as the acquirer, according to the current provisions that are within our water contracts for the State Water Project, provides the ability for DWR to acquire water on our behalf, providing us the ability to have it placed on their statement of charges. With the partner facilities, participants are seeking certain acknowledgments and commitments regarding partner facility capacities and constraints, and if what would require the building of new partner facilities, as well as the use of unused partners facility capacity and approval of amendments to how do we approve amendments to partner agreements. So making sure we have all of that governance in place so we can go into the investor commitment period eyes wide open with what we are receiving with our investments, as well as delivery point modifications. South of Delta participants would like to see primary point of delivery to be the Sacramento River for delivery into the State Water Project system, that the State Sites Project Authority would deliver water consistent with participant exchange agreements. So understanding that many of us have exchange agreements, we need to be conscious of those and make sure that we can deliver consistent with those, as well as with the primary point of delivery being into the State Water Project system. Currently, it's listed as the Funks Reservoir, which is not a connection into the State Water Project system, but does indicate that deliveries may be coordinated to get it to the State Water Project. We want to make sure to firm that up to ensure the delivery to the State Water Project to provide a greater level of certainty for Desert Water Agency and other South of Delta participants. To facilitate the resolution of these remaining issues, an in-person workshop will be held in April or May. Currently, we have one scheduled for the day after the Aqua Conference, so I'll be holding over in Sacramento to attend those after the Aqua Conference, where the designated representative for each participant will participate in a hybrid face-to-face negotiation and mediation-style negotiations where appropriate. So we will be face-to-face with each other, all of the participants. Yes, there are going to be different factions that develop depending on, are you north of Delta, south of Delta, and depending on the individual issue that we're going to be addressing, we will modify the negotiation approach based off of each of those issues. So moving on to the Sites Reservoir draft water right. So this has been a long process, the issuance of the draft water right. In May 2022, the Sites Reservoir project applied to the State Water Resources Control Board for a water right permit. In November 2023, this application was assigned to administrative hearing officer to conduct the proceedings and prepare the water right orders and decisions for the State Water Resources Control Board's decision. On Friday, March 20th, 2026, the Water Resources Control Board released a draft water right decision and permit for public comment. The Sites Project Authority did release a statement after the issuance stating that they are carefully reviewing these extensive documents and will take the time necessary to fully understand their potential implications on the project's operations and benefits that can provide the people of California, about the project's operations and benefits that it can provide the people of California. Elements of the draft decision and permit are different from the end of the hearing process last year, and we will need to evaluate and reconcile these differences. Currently, the 60-day public comment period is open and will close on May 22nd. And the administrative hearing officer will evaluate feedback received and may revise the draft decision prior to submission to the State Water Resources Control Board. At that point in time, there will open a second comment period prior to the issuance and the determination on that final decision. We have had some outreach regarding water conservation. As we all know, water conservation is a task that the agency is undertaking, and it's going to be a large one. And so we've been diligently working with our cities and other impacted individuals and properties to make sure that they're fully informed as we move forward. So DAWA has been proactively working with the staff at both the City of Palm Springs and the City of Cathedral City to inform them of the challenges of making conservation a California way of life and the upcoming enforcement of DWA's Ordinance 80 for non-functional turf for their respective entities. Additionally, these discussions have included aspects of the wider community impacts on HOAs and businesses. Representatives of both cities have expressed interest in a presentation to their department heads meeting and their council members. So the conservation team will be working with each city to provide the requested presentations at the city council meetings at some time in the near future. Moving on to our staff activities, we have another training that has been conducted here at the agency on March 24th. The agency conducted a first aid, CPR, and AED training for 11 team members as a part of our emergency preparedness and workplace safety program. And in this report, you'll see all of the details on the items that they were trained on, which is consistent with our other first aid trainings and CPR trainings that the rest of the staff has received. And so this is essentially making sure all of our team members are certified in first aid, CPR, and AED to ensure operational readiness during major incidents or disaster response, and as any staff member may be requested during those times of emergencies. So we're making sure we are all prepared. We do have a few announcements to make. So we've discussed this cancellation for a while, now officially just canceling that May 5th board meeting due to lack of quorum. We will, I believe, all be at the Aqua Conference in Sacramento. So we do not have a quorum during that board meeting, but staff has been working around this and scheduling all of our items to bring to the board around this schedule, knowing that this cancellation would happen. So we're ready and prepared for that cancellation. Also, a fun one is the Capio Award we are a Capio Award finalist for our mission, vision, and values video that the agency produced when we had the development of our strategic plan, our mission and vision and values. When we roll it out to staff, we produce the video which you've seen. So we are a finalist in their 2026 EPIC Award for our mission, vision, values video. There are 2 finalists in this category, Desert Water Agency, as well as the Port of Long Beach. The finalists will receive either an EPIC Award or an Award of Distinction, which is second place at the 2026 EPIC Award ceremony in San Diego on May 12th during the annual Capio Conference. As far as our outreach, DWA and CVWD held a joint facilities tour for the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. Due to the Municipal Water Leaders Workshop in Palm Springs on the 30th and 31st of March, that brought our USBR representatives very close to us. So we have capitalized on that opportunity along with the Coachella Valley Water District, and we hosted a joint facilities tour for those representatives. The morning kicked off on April 1st here at DWA, where we provided a DWA-specific meeting with Linnea Melby, who is a senior advisor to the USBR commissioner, along with Jesse Jones from the Yuma area office, and Alex, I'm not going to attempt to say his last name, we'll just leave it at Alex, from the Temecula area office. During this meeting, staff provided an overview of the agency's history, our service area, our core operations, and we also highlighted our conservation programs, including rebate offerings and DWA's success in securing and implementing Water Smart grants, which are provided by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. Discussion also included regional water issues such as the Colorado River salinity. Following the meeting, we led a tour of our Snow Creek facility. This really provided us the opportunity to highlight the agency's surface water sources and the unique characteristics of Desert Water Agency system here in the desert. The broader tour continued. We joined CVWD at the Whitewater River Groundwater Replenishment Facility to highlight our replenishment activities. and provided USBR with a comprehensive overview of water management across the Coachella Valley. And at that point in time, we kind of split ways, where they headed off to Coachella Valley Water District for their own individual meeting with USBR. Out in the community, we had the 1PS Community Picnic, where we hosted an informational booth at the 1PS Neighborhood Picnic on March 21st at the Ruth Hardy Park in Palm Springs. Attendees at the booth could spin a wheel for prizes, receive information on conservation, and stay hydrated with our refreshing water bottle. And we want to give a great thank you to President Bloomer and Vice President McKenna and Secretary Treasurer Ortega, who were also in attendance and helped man that booth and speak with our customers. And these picnics and these outreach opportunities really give us the opportunity to reach out to our community, let them know who we are, what we do, and how we're here to support them. Our conservation staff also had the opportunity to make a presentation to the Palm Springs Sustainability Commission with a conservation presentation on March 17th. The presentation was on the expectations for the city regarding Ordinance 80 and the impacts to DWA service area due to the Making Conservation of California Way of Life regulation. The presentation also highlighted the benefits of the City of Palm Springs funding to DWA's grass removal program thus far. This funding has helped to remove about 1.38 million square feet of grass, saving about 92 million gallons of water per year. So our turf removal program is a very significant program that does support our water conservations significantly, and the support that we receive from the city to make that happen and to help incentivize that turf conversion has been very beneficial for our program. Moving on to our system leaks. Over the past 3 weeks since it's been from our last board meeting, there was a total of 28 leaks, and consistent on our bare unlined steel pipe, of which labor hours for response took 209 labor hours to respond to those leaks. So we are still seeing a pretty steady rate of leaks, and it has not spiked up as we see kind of on the shoulder season. It did tick up a little bit, but it kind of has arrested, and now we're 1.2 leaks a day is about our average. Okay, moving on to our management activities, I'd like to pass it over to Director of Public Affairs and Conservation, Lort, for a highlight on her meetings and activities.
Thank you, General Manager Sines, President Bloomer, members of the board. Good morning. As you see before you, I'm not going to go through the individual legislative meetings that I've attended, but we can see that the state legislative session is absolutely in full swing. We are part of a few different aqua working groups as well, and of course, meeting with both our state and federal advocates. I do want to just point out a few elements. We have been full steam ahead on the website. We have a targeted launch date of May 11th. So after the aqua conference. So you'll see quite a bit of different website meetings listed in my activities. As well, we did meet, myself and Clark, Conservation Manager Elliott, met with the City of Cathedral City, as General Manager Sines mentioned, regarding Ordinance 80 and the water use objective. And so that was an initial meet. We were really excited to continue the conversations there. Additionally, we continue to meet, Conservation Manager Elliott and I, with Vertex One, who is the selected vendor for our AMI customer portal. We continue to work through some contract negotiations there, and as well as some how that will integrate with the rest of our systems. We also met with Esri to look at a conservation wish list for our GIS systems and see what possibilities and capabilities we have there. And then also with a few of you members from the board and members of management, we attended the Palm Springs Chamber Police and Fire Luncheon. Also, we have met with Friends of the Desert Mountains. They have a native plant guide booklet, and we are one of those sponsors. Moving forward for their reprint, we've also secured a few pages about water conservation that we can add in that booklet, and that booklet will also be put in all of our welcome bags for all new services. And then lastly, attended the Municipal Water Leaders Workshop on the 31st. And you'll also see, I know it's April 1st, but there was quite a lead up of meetings and planning with USBR staff for the VIP tour that General Manager Sines mentioned with Senior Advisor Melby. Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on to my meetings and activities up in Sacramento again for the DCP State Water Contractors and Sites Reservoir monthly meetings in March 18th through the 20th. And also I had been selected to participate on the Aqua Local Government Committee. So we had our first meeting and this is a 2-year term to serve on this committee for Aqua. So that's for 2026 and 2027. So we had our first meeting. We'll also be meeting during the Aqua Conference up here the first week of May. And budget is in full swing. So we have done our budget, capital, and extraordinary expense reviews with management, as well as we participated in meetings with all of the department heads, and Finance Director Slough is, of course, leading that effort to go through all of the capital and extraordinary expense items, and it's looking very good this year. We've been very intentional over the past couple of years to plan out our long-term planning needs, and that has really assisted in this process and really starting to streamline our budget process, which is great. Also had the quarterly GM meeting with CVWD, Mission Springs Water District, and Desert Water Agency according to our settlement agreement terms. So we are continuing that, and that's been a great meeting quarterly. Also a part of the JEPA, sorry, I have a typo here, for the Delta Conveyance Project negotiations. So we have a negotiation workshop here on Thursday this week where I'll be heading up to Sacramento to participate in that, but we've been having a few meetings to prep for that to be prepared. This one's over financial governance. Also attended the Municipal Water Leaders Workshop here in Palm Springs on the 30th and 31st and participated in the first part of that USBR meeting and tour. And also had a Sites Reservoir Special Reservoir Committee and Authority Board meeting on the 2nd. And that concludes my highlights and concludes the General Manager's report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, Director Bowman?
Let's go back to sites for a minute. We talking about the water rights issue that was where the state granted what I understand to be a right that's about 30% less than what was requested. And it sounded to me like that was in terms of economic possibilities, I guess, that, the possibility of the project being stopped as a result of not being able to access the amount of water that was forecasted to be needed to make the project work. Can they make it? Because I've heard words like jeopardizing the project is in jeopardy. Then I ask myself, well, is the state trying to slow it down because the economics of the state government, or are they really saying that? Do you have anything to? I can go in all kinds of places based on that little bit of information I had, and I just wonder if anything more to it than what.
As I did mention, that the draft water rate is different than what was requested as well as where the proceedings were. And yes, there are terms that are concerning that are being evaluated, and we will be providing you more information as we have more specific details on the topic.
Yeah, it does seem complicated. I don't know if it does change the economics of the project for us or for the rest of the contractors. But when you're talking about 30% less water, well, are we all giving up 30%? And if that's the case, that's the feds who are putting up a big chunk of the money and early money. So it's just, one more of those things that we have to follow and kind of keep.
We'll have more for you soon.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll update you either in closed session or open session or both.
Okay. That's it.
Vice President McKenna?
I want to go back to governmental outreach regarding water conservation and the presentation that we are planning at some point to make to city councils, Cathedral City and Palm Springs. I would like to go to that. And I think the reason I'd like to do that is we need to engage with them a little bit more than we seem to be doing. We have a mandate to cut water consumption massively, but we don't really have the power to do it. These cities do. They have building inspectors, they have code enforcement, they have people going into existing buildings that probably have, 5-gallon water tanks on the toilets. We need to engage them in enforcing better conservation across the board. I'm particularly thinking of the Airbnb type situation. My own experience, I had 2 of those, and the customers, the clients, generally use twice as much water as an average Californian did. It's just as a matter of course. They don't have this concept that we have, turning the faucet off when you're brushing your teeth, and all these other things that we do automatically. Visitors to our region do not do. I want to see that we can engage with the cities, not just on the massive amount of non-functional turf they have around City Hall and the airport, but they have people going into buildings that are changing hands or being renovated. I'd like to know if they're really working our agenda when they do that. So I'd like to promote a little bit more engagement on that. So that's my comment on what you had going on today. And I think our video should win, by the way. It's so good. If it doesn't win, the election was stolen.
Hey, we'll at least get first or second. So we'll get something.
I don't have any questions or comments, but I do, in response to what Vice President McKenna said, I know that Desert Water Agency and the city kind of partnered together, especially with the hospitality community, as far as with restaurants and hotels, to encourage conservation. And that's been effective and still ongoing as far as that goes. Because, there's a lot more tourists in hotel rooms than Airbnbs. So it's reaching them and working with the convention center and conventions that come into town as well. So with the different hospitality groups. But anyways, moving on to item number 10, directors' reports on meetings and events attended on behalf of the agency. And I'll ask each board member to report out on their events that are compensable. Director Bowman.
Thank you. I attended virtually the Riverside County Water Task Force on the 22nd of last month. I also had the privilege of attending the Municipal Water Leaders Conference on the 30th and 31st. It was their second. I think they had a good choice for the location. I love their presenters. They were crisp and relevant, and it was a wonderful conference. And that is it for me.
Okay. Director Gracia.
Let's see. Let's go back to our last board meeting, which was, is that the 17th?
Yes. St. Patrick's Day.
So I attended on the 18th, the Desert Valley Builders Association legislative meeting. On the 24th was the Coachella Valley Water District Board meeting. And there a couple of things talked about. One, they went into overtime and on the subject of a working group, I guess, discussing the need for possibly organizing a working group with the San Gorgonio Pass Water Agency on the possibility or exploring opportunities to bring the aqueduct or the canal up to our boundary, and whether or not they want to bring it into the desert. It sounds like there's going to be some meetings on the subject. And I guess at some point our staff will be involved in that, or we'll have to follow it somehow. But it sounded like a DOA, but it sounds like they are going to also have meetings to talk about it. I guess it's an opportunity for everybody to get a little education on the subject, and so I'm looking forward to that moving forward. The 26th, I attended the Palm Springs Chamber of Commerce event for the firefighters and police officers, and thought they did a real good job. I think I might have stepped in it a little bit. I introduced one of the young men at the department who I don't know how I heard it, but I heard that he was going to be the next police chief. And I said, "Hey, congratulations." And he was standing there with about 5 other captains and lieutenants and all the other people that might have been selected. And his face turned white as a sheet. And but I don't think I'm wrong about it, but because I think I heard it from the police chief himself. So we'll have to see if that works out. But either way, it was a little awkward. So we'll see how that works out in the end. Then on the 30th and 31st, the Water Strategies Workshop here in Palm Springs. And I have to say that I don't know how they could have planned it any better if they didn't plan it at all. It worked out really, really great for everybody. I think everybody had an opportunity to learn a great deal and say their piece. We'll see how things go in the future with various issues facing the district and our ratepayers. But in my view, we had a home run there. I don't think we could have done better if we had tried. So whatever that's worth. And then we have today's meeting, and they'll all be on my report. And then there were others too that, of course, are not compensable. But that's it.
Okay, Vice President McKenna.
Since the last meeting, I went to the one Palm Springs picnic, and it was a great event. I was buttonholed by 2 or 3 people as I walked around, and they were surprisingly knowledgeable about where water comes from, and that's news to me. But it points to better community engagement that we have going on. So I appreciated that. Afterwards, I appreciated it. Big buttonhole at the time, I wasn't so sure. I had executive committee meeting on the 2nd of April, and that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. On March 21st, I attended the Tahquitz Creek Golf Course annual neighborhood meeting. And Mr. Elliott from Conservation was also there. And they didn't ask too many hard questions or complain about non-functional turf. So it was a success. Then I went over to the 1PS picnic over at Ruth Hardy Park. I think more people were interested in probably jumping into the ice bath that all the water was being stored in because it was a very warm day. But all in all, a good event, well attended. Then on March 26th, I also attended the police and fire luncheon. And then on the 27th, listened into the Riverside County Water Task Force webinar meeting. And then on March 30th and 31st was the Municipal Leaders Conference. And I will agree, I think we had all the right people in the room and got to ask a lot of questions. It was a nice setup. We also heard for some very interesting new technologies that are out there. And yeah, all in all, a great meeting. So hopefully get to do that again next year. And that is it for me. So now we will move on to item number 11, director's comments and requests. Director Bowman.
Thank you. Several years back, actually, before I got on the board, DWA, I think under the guidance of our then finance director Sines, started a whole technology revolution within the district, bringing us into a more modern age of just GIS, and we've seen amazing growth even today, voting and getting this next step for all the towers to get working and talking together. And then, of course, we also had created here our strategic plan, and with the various goals such as sustainability. And I think that is absolutely fantastic, helping us grab a hold of and tie together what we're doing with these goals. Last meeting, we discussed a solar project, and I voted no, and it did not pass. And in my comments then, I said, we're not done talking about this. And so I've been formulating where I'm at on this whole topic. And it's basically, I'd like to suggest that we need to have even a greater focus on energy and infrastructure resilience. That we can tap onto those things with the various goals of our strategic plan, but to actually have a focus on energy infrastructure and resilience, I think is critical. The presentation on the solar project, in my mind, lacked a lot of details, and it lacked a sense of passion that would motivate us to launch ahead with the concern about our grid independence, backup of power, critical water infrastructure protection in the case of terrorism and or simply an earthquake. So I guess what I'd like to do, suggest now, is that we consider as a district either segmenting or granting or bestowing upon a staff member a 50,000-foot view for the whole district, because I know you're all very busy, or maybe even consider a dedicated director of such product, such actions within the district. It would take us forward. It would take us protecting our customers and a vision for the future. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Director Gracia?
I won't be able to go too much into it otherwise, because then we'll have back and forth on the subject, but I generally agree with much of what you said on that subject. This is a subject that's not closed, clearly. But we have to face the reality. I think the tariffs that the electric company allows us to receive for power that we generate that we can't use, that's the current issue in terms of holding back solar systems. Okay, on to the next subject.
Thank you.
That subject now in the rearview mirror. There is truth to a online rumor that there is a new data center being planned for out toward past the freeway, Division 1, that will 1 million square feet of building and would require as much electricity as the entire Coachella Valley times 2 to operate. No comment on water use, but we know that those things use a lot of water. They're claiming that the closed loop cooling that they're using doesn't use any water. True or not, the electricity demand, in my view, is probably more serious than our report last month. We have plenty of water, maybe. You hear these scary stories about water use on those things, but there is technology that allows these to cool without. They just recycle the water through the, so anyway, these are things that are, they're going to have to build a nuclear power plant somewhere. I don't know where to power that thing, because you're not going to do that with solar panels. You're not going to do it with our existing infrastructure, electrical wise. And mathematically, the amount of solar panels that you would have to put in place and battery storage to get the plant 24-hour, it's just impossible unless it's nuclear. I'm not promoting nuclear, but when we start talking about our little solar project, and then the realities of these data centers, I read that post probably 4 times. I thought, this guy's making this stuff up just to create havoc on Facebook. But true enough, it's on the agenda for the 14th.
I think we're a little.
Okay, but it's things are going
I know.
in the community, and we got to keep an eye on things, and that's a big one. So that's it.
All right, Vice President McKenna.
Well, I'm going to begin with a quote from Mike Tyson, the American philosopher. The presidential quote comes later. Mike Tyson said, "Everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the face." And I think that's relevant to us because we are going to have a punch in the face with energy costs. The recommendation on photovoltaics that the staff made last meeting and that we accepted was a disappointment to me. But I recognize that analysis that was presented was weak. It lacked detail. It wasn't a great presentation, but it can't be the end of the story. We can't just stop. And as I mull it over, I see actually a little bit of a bigger problem than that, a deeper and more serious problem. We are not planning for the future, at least not adequately. The general plan we have, I think it's an embarrassment. And I'm fairly sure I'm the only person on the stage that's read it from cover to cover. But I can say with great confidence to the rest of you, it's utterly useless to respond to any kind of crisis or punch in the face. And coupled with that, we have a budget process that looks 1 year ahead. And it's tweaks and adjustments, corrections to what we do already. It's more of the same. So here's something I want you to think about. If Southern California Edison had a grid failure, say there's a seismic event, the Path 10, those 4 high tension lines across the valley, let's say they were severed, or the Devers facility by Desert Hot Springs has some kind of incident and goes out of action. Without grid connectivity, our water system will collapse in 1 week. And that's a very real possibility to me. I sat on a plane with somebody from Asheville, North Carolina, and she told me she was without water for 59 days after the storm and flood went through there. It's unimaginable that we could do without water for 59 days. It's just not possible. We'd have a mass evacuation, essentially. So we passed a strategic plan, and the mission is up there, and the strategic plan the vision is over there. I think we fell at the first hurdle 3 weeks ago when it came to sustainability. When we didn't pass that or examine that proposal further, that's not sustainability. That's the exact opposite. So I'm worried we'll get into kind of a doom loop where the staff recommends and the board accepts. Well, we can't do that because it's risky. We had a paragraph in the staff report called uncharted territory. It strikes me, the whole future is uncharted territory, but future is intrinsically uncharted territory. We have to get into uncharted territory. And here comes a presidential quote. Dwight D. Eisenhower, in a speech on November 14, 1957, said, "Plans are useless, but planning is everything." And by that he meant studying, discussing, learning potential outcomes. That enables the development of flexible responses to emergency situations and unexpected situations. The planning process is the key to being ready. And I think we need a planning transformation like we had a technology transformation. We need to, I think we should formally scrap that original plan and start over. And I think we should do it in-house. We should do it with the people who work here, the people who live with these problems day to day. We should get our staff to start thinking about how do we cope with, say, 75% increase in the cost of electricity. That's not unimaginable anymore. How do we cope with this 30% reduction in demand for water? Planning is everything, in Eisenhower's words. And planning a new, smarter future from scratch, in-house, is something I think we have to do. And we have to do it now. So let's get ready for the punch in the face, the geopolitical punch in the face, or the energy shock punch in the face, or both at the same time. Let's get ready for it. Thanks.
Okay, I don't have any comments or requests, and so we're going to adjourn into closed session to discuss items 12A and 12B as shown on the agenda, and we'll meet there at 9:25. Okay, we are back in open session, and we have no reportable action from closed session, and so I will adjourn this regular meeting of Desert Water Agency and see you in a couple weeks.